for tuning in to the 416 Ministries podcast. This is the interview series. Today we're sitting down with Jared Scaggs, and we're here over the weekend in Cape Girardeau, Missouri, and for a marriage seminar, marriage enrichment seminar. And so thank you for the invitation to be here, but thank you for coming and sitting down with us and just talking a little bit about the work here and some of your time as a student at the Memphis School of Preaching, and we'll get into that here in just a moment. But I appreciate the work that you're doing here, and as we've talked over the weekend a little bit, I think that's it's evident. This is a hard-working church. It's a congregation that wants to grow, and the elders are pushing for that and leading in that way, and you working alongside them. It just seems like you can feel that with just the group that we had last night, even so. So for those who are tuning in who may not know who you are, introduce yourself, and then we'll talk about kind of where we are in the congregation here a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Of course, my name is Jared Scaggs, and as Wayne already said, I got 3 kids at home that is my whole world, of course. I've got an 18-year-old. I don't know how that happened. Seems like the other day he was just born, and now he's 18. And then that's Zane, and then Dean's 11, and Lacey is 9. And of course, you got something to be said about your daughter. You know, that's a blessing and a half. Now you got granddaughters, so you're starting to feel that now, right?
Starting to pick up on that.
And I've been preaching here at the Cape Girardeau Church. It's the West End Boulevard Church of Christ. It's the only church in Cape right now. About 60,000 people in the Cape area. There is a church in Jackson, which is very close, but I think we're the only one actually in Cape now. There was another church, but I think they moved out to a different area. But you know, been here for 3 years, and what I've noticed is, you know, the potential here is so vast. And one of the goals that me and the elders have set down and made for a long-term goal is we'd like to see 1% of Cape Girardeau to be part of the church.
Sure.
That's 600 people. That's not you know,
Yeah.
too big of a trial to do, but we have it set out with some mini goals to meet that. Of course, we need to have a certain number of Bible studies each year to be able to reach that goal. Mm-hmm. And of course, we're enrolled in the School of Evangelism with Rob Whitaker.
Yeah.
And so we are, each time we baptize somebody, we make more contacts. Yeah. And we gain access to a whole different area of contacts that we didn't have, and that's the only way we're going to hit that mark. And so
it kind of opens the door a little bit further. Each convert and each family you get into, you meet their family and their friend pool and their co-workers and so forth. And
exactly, yeah.
It makes it for a greater opportunity in this area, and I appreciate you kind of setting the stage for this area, because it's kind of surprising it's the only congregation in Cape.
Right.
And you know, and so when you start thinking about that, that's a large population, and so the potential is huge already. You know, to be able to grow, and I know the church has been, and so we'll talk a little bit more maybe about that. Let's switch gears just a little bit and go back in time a little bit to the Memphis School of Preaching.
Yeah.
And what took you to Memphis to begin with?
Well, growing up, you know, my father, Johnny Scaggs, he was really close to Curtis Cates. They were real good friends. Brother Liddell, I joke about, you know, that Brother Liddell used to sleep in my bed a lot. Not when I was in it. I would go to a different bed, but I'd give up my room to Brother Liddell a lot of times, and he would come to you know, do a lectureship or gospel meeting. Dad and him were very close. Of course, Dad was just very close with all the faculty, Brother Elkins and all those guys. And so, growing up, Brother Cates, I always remember anytime I saw him, he would encourage me. He called me little preacher. And he would say, we got a desk waiting for you at the school. Of course, they don't have desks now. I guess maybe at one time they did have desks when they were at Forest Hill or
Mount Arnold.
Mount Arnold.
Yeah.
But yeah, he always, you know, just very encouraging that, you know, there'd be a place for me at Memphis. when I was ready. And of course, being a preacher's son, you tend to get that push towards it. And being from Missouri, we're very stubborn people. Missouri, we're like the mules that we're proud of making here. We're stubborn as a mule, and so if somebody's pushing me, I'm pushing back. And so all my young life, a lot of people would tell me I should be a preacher, and I was kind of just pushed back against it because nobody's going to tell me how to live my life. And I went in the Navy and traveled all over the world and got that out of my system. And then came home and started a family, and got into mechanic work. It was something I always wanted to do. I always wanted to be a mechanic. I always loved turning wrenches. My favorite toy as a kid, other kids are probably playing with like the little block things. You stick the little star in the hole or whatever. I was out there with the ratchet. I like to hear it spin. And so as I grew up, I got more and more into cars, especially classic cars, muscle cars. Had several muscle cars in my high school years, and so I got out of the military and changed direction from graphic art to being a mechanic, and went to Jacksonville. Got an opportunity to run a shop out there in Jacksonville, Florida, and had four bays, 3 lifts, all to myself. All the cars I could possibly want to work on, and it was just everything I would always want to do. I always wanted to have my own shop. It was about as close to that as I could have got without deep pockets. And it was about that time, well, maybe a few years back, that the push had stopped. It was like, okay, well, he's doing what he wants to do, and we'll stop trying to encourage him to preach.
Let him do his thing.
Let him do his thing. And Steven, my youngest brother, went to preaching school, so his dad's like, okay, well, I got 1 out of 3, I guess. So maybe that stopped the pushing too. But it was at that time I was working, doing mechanic work, that some issues arise in the congregation I was at, and I got really upset that that people were just letting these things happen. And it kind of dawned on me that I was being very hypocritical, because here I am, not really doing much except showing up to service. And what right do I have to get upset when I'm not even actively doing anything? I'm not a deacon. I'm not an elder. I'm not a preacher. And I've seen that happen over and over and over to not just my dad, but several preachers over the years. Sure. Where you have these horror stories. Matter of fact, I want to write a book one day called "They Did What to the Preacher."
Yeah.
And it'd be like Dragnet, like the names and places will be changed for their protection, but just stories of like horror stories, like just to let people know, because most people in the church don't know a lot of things that happen to us as preachers that we deal with, and we don't want them to know in that time place, because we're not trying to split the church. And so when some things happen, we try to leave with grace, and we try to show them, that even though you've done something wrong, there's some biblical principles that come into play, and so we try to treat them, even though that they've done us wrong. We try to turn the other cheek and show them grace and long suffering. But I think it's good though for the congregations to kind of see some of the things that we actually have to deal with that have been done to us. Maybe that would give them a greater appreciation for the work that we do and the preachers that they have. But anyways, getting back to my story, the main thing there, that caused me to wake up and say, hey, maybe I need to preach. And that awakened something in me that I guess I had been suppressing all my life. And the more it burnt in my mind, the more I was like, I'm the happiest I've ever been. And there's a desire to preach. I always thought, I will take Curtis Cates up on that offer someday. And of course, about that time, Brother Cates got sick, and I realized I'd messed up, and I wasn't going to get it to sit underneath his feet. And so one day I came home from work and I told my wife, I said, I think I need to preach. And we talked about it. She agreed, and sold everything we had basically, and went to Memphis. And went there from 2014 to 2016, I think, when I graduated, if I remember right.
What, as far as your time there, and I know a good number of your classmates, good friends with a lot of them, and what's some of the highlights and some of the things you might want to share, during that 2-year period, instructor-wise, just maybe some of the events you're going to, things that were that stuck out in your mind that were key, not just because of the camaraderie, but also key to, things clicking and pulling it together, and starting to, because I think there's a couple things that happen along the way, probably in each 2-year class period, for each class, that something kind of clicks with us and goes, okay, I can see this. I'm connecting this with this, and this is what I want to do the rest of my life, if the Lord will use me, and so kind of what was your experience, during that 2-year period?
Well, I went in to the early summer, so I got both summers, which I think if you can go to Memphis, if you're going to go to Memphis, I think you should try to get both summers, because I think it's so vital to get logic in that one summer. But then you also got the other summer, I think is that the intertestament period, or is that archaeology? I can't remember now.
I think those two were flip-flops, so whichever,
But I mean, both summers are vitally important stuff, and you really miss out on a lot. So I came in ahead of my class a little bit, and came in the summer, and I think instantly it just was kind of like one of those. I think it instantly clicked, like this is where I was always supposed to be at. Having gone through boot camp, it was not as, and going through college, it wasn't as big a shock to me, I think, as it was to some others. I know several of my classmates had never been to anything like that. Some of them were new converts. Some of them were fresh out of high school, never worked, had any real work experience. And so I think for them it was different. For me, it was just like, this is the right time, this is the right place. I clicked.
Right.
And this is where I'm supposed to be at.
Yeah.
And I look back, and I think you're right. And one of the things you'll hear from everybody that's ever gone through the school, that's honest with themselves, is it's the best 2 years of your life. And I think we were talking about that earlier. It's you don't just like with boot camp, you don't really see it as that when you're doing it.
Yeah.
I remember in the Navy boot camp, I remember writing home to Mom all the time, like, Mom, I don't know what they're doing. This whatever they're doing is illegal. Get a lawyer. Get me out of here. This is wrong. They're abusing me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, but then, and it was hard. It was difficult.
Yeah.
But then years back, I look back at it and I was like, I kind of go back to boot camp. Like, I was in good shape in boot camp. And it's kind of that same way with Memphis. You look back at it, you remember you didn't have any. You had a buffer, really, against our adversary, the devil. Yeah. Because you're in a place that is very safe. You're not around people who are cursing. You're not around people who are, and once we get out into our ministry, those are the people we're talking to on a daily basis, because we're trying to save souls, and we're trying to be with people that, just like Jesus went to those who were cast out from society. The woman at the well. He went to the tax collectors. He went to the, all those type of people. And so you had that bubble of safety there. Right. And man, I'll tell you what, it was great with the kids. Yes. If you have kids, I mean, it is a great 2 years for your kids.
Yeah. When we went, we had, our boys were younger, and so they were the perfect age to be there and to experience, to have other kids around them, you know, and we were the first ones to move in the apartments, in fact, on campus. So that was, you know, they took full advantage of being there and having that all that space, you know, and you know, and where the school is a very safe location anyway. But it's even back where nobody really knows it's all there, you know. So it's so you really
every once in a while you'll see a deer, you know. Out there.
Yeah, which is kind of odd, but you know, to experience that. But yeah, they're right there. But it's, you know, you have that bubble, you know, and you build those friendships while you're there. And, you know, before we were, you know, started filming everything, we were talking about, you know, you bond over traumatic things, you know.
Fourth quarter is very traumatic.
some very difficult things, you know, that you go through. But, you know, but just like you were talking about with the idea of boot camp, you know, there's a mentally there's still this kind of breaking you down to build you up,
right?
You know, and so that you can be the man God wants you to be when you leave, and you're prepared, you know, as best as they can in 2 years. I mean, when you start breaking it down, it's really not that long.
No.
You know, to go out. I mean, Jesus had 3 years with his apostles, you know, so.
I've said that before. I was like, they need to make Memphis 3 years. I mean, if Jesus took 3 years, you know, Memphis
you'd have people going, absolutely not, we're not doing that. No, not 3 years.
Yeah.
So, now at least there's graduate programming, you know, so you can continue on with that. So that's kind of nice. You know, there's, and you know, and I'm, you know, I think about the instructors and the impact they had on us as well. That was, all of that was just huge for me going through, and I'm sure everybody that I talk to, that's, you know, they have their, you know, and I'm not going to ask you your favorite, you know, but you know, we all have our guys that were our instructors that we learned the most from, you know, that we were able to either relate to, or the way they taught, you know, we learned from all of them, no doubt, but at the same time, you know, some of them had a way with the text, and they could, you know, help us understand things that I had not been seeing, you know, all this time, you know, and so I think that's important.
I think they all taught. It'd be hard to say who was my favorite, because, I mean, you have Brother Elkins, and it's just like, nowhere in the world will you ever find a more true example of what a gentleman is. And he was funny, and he was kind, but then when he would teach you, well, his test. You know, it would just say exegete Romans chapter 2, and if you didn't know Romans chapter 2, you're in trouble. So, you know, his tests were, it wasn't a try to trip you up, it wasn't a multiple choice, tell me what you know about the text, and you better have studied it. Whereas, you know, other instructors like Brother Mosier, I mean, what can you say about Brother Mosier? You know, he taught us a lot of how to think critically, like, you know, think about these. He would throw things out there, and then he would be like, well, no, that's not, you're not thinking about it correctly. Think about it like you know, use your mind and break that down. And he, of course, you know, he's very intelligent. I forgot what that, he's in that club, only smart people get into. I forgot what it's called, like MRSA or something like that.
Or,
or I can't think of the name of it right off the top, because I'm not in it. But he's a very intelligent person. He uses that logic, and so he has a way of teaching you how to think. Of course, all the instructors teach you how to study. But they all had these attributes, you know, like that. I mean, Brother Kate's, you know, Dan. I love Dan and Andy both. You put both of them together, you almost got Curtis. You know, one's got one part of him, one's got the other part.
You can hear him.
Oh yeah,
you can hear him there.
If I close my eyes sometimes, you know, and just kind of squint, you know, with Dan's hand motions and stuff, it's like, you know. But you know, he is just underrated, the amount of intelligence he has, and all the degrees, they're not on the wall. You know, he's not flaunting it, but he's got more degrees than than I got shoes. And
but I remember Brother Curtis talking about, you know, well, when you get that diploma, best thing you can do is fold it up, put it in your bottom desk drawer, and get back to work.
Get back to work,
you know? So
they all had these attributes, and they taught you different things. It would just be hard to really say, like, who's your favorite, you know. And I don't want to leave out Brother Bobby or Brother Bland. what can you say about Brother Bobby? Except, well,
brother.
well, brother. And he taught us how to make cornbread correctly, so
That's funny.
you gotta love Brother Bobby.
So let's kind of finish up with the thinking about the church here again. As far as thinking about a plan to, and I like the idea of the goal that you talk about with the elders. Trying to get the 1%, of this population here in Cape Girardeau. And you've said you've done the house-to-house School of Evangelism, part of that training with Rob Whitaker and everything. Is that so? How does that continue to kind of show up in the congregation? How do you, you've had him here, and went through the training, but how does that continue on, and how are you seeing that in the membership?
One thing I think a lot of people miss with the School of Evangelism is it's not just a gospel meeting that you have and all of a sudden you start doing evangelism. You're enrolling in a school, and there's a curriculum that you follow, and you have teachers. I can call. I've always been able to call Rob. Even matter of fact, when I went to Jay, first Bible study I ever had outside of preaching school, I got Rob's number. Of course, he wasn't doing the School of Evangelism, but I knew Rob. And I called Rob for pointers, and boy, he just picked up, and he talked my ear off for hours. And I was like, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I got it all. I'll talk to you later. I gotta go to the Bible study. But he just unloaded so much information, and that's just the right way Rob is. He is a
very passionate about what he's
people
doing.
saver, And so you get in that school. And there's a curriculum you follow. You got access to the teachers. Keto's coming again this coming spring. Keto's going to come, and he's going to help do some training with some of our special groups that we've set up. And so you preach the whole counsel of God throughout the year, but I think you have to kind of sometimes every once in a while jumpstart the evangelism again with lessons. And we've got members here now that are doing Bible studies on their own. I don't even know about it. I had one a few months back. First thing I heard about any of it was, hey, we're having a baptism up here. Can you come take pictures?
Yeah.
I was like, hey man, that's awesome.
On the way.
I didn't have to do the Bible study. I didn't have to do the baptism. I didn't have. All I had to do was stand there and take pictures and look pretty.
And with the idea of evangelism like that, I always, because as a Fisher's Men trainer, and stuff like that, I always thought, well, the more members that I can train, if I could train, half the congregation, or 40 or 50 members, to have Bible studies, and each one of them we're only having one, I can't have that many Bible studies, going.
No.
There's no way I've got enough time in the day to get that done, or even a week to have that many Bible studies on a typical week. So, but having that kind of worker base, if you will, in the congregation, knowing, hey, they're getting that work done, they're going and doing it, and I can keep encouraging them. That's what I'm here to do, is to help keep them going. I'm going to do my part. But at the same time, I'm going to keep them doing what they're doing. So I think that's great, and I appreciate you sitting down and just talking with us for a few minutes. We're going to make sure that we have all of your information, as well as the congregation here in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. We're going to make sure that all that's in the show notes and in the description below, so you can check out the congregation there if you're visiting right off I-55. And so 3 hours north of Memphis, so not very far, just a couple hours, I guess, from St. Louis.
Right, yeah.
So not too far away from there as well. So right on I-55, you can come check the congregation out here. Very loving and friendly congregation, and so I hope that you'll do that, and we'll see you further down the road.